Hello, Gene Schwimmer here, and welcome to me. Yeah, I know it's been a while since I did a video. I've just been very busy, but I make myself time to do one, so here I am. Before I go any farther into my subject, I want to just say welcome. I've got 2 new subscribers, I noticed, so I am now up to 8. Hey, it's a start. And I just got this feeling also that subscriber number 9 is just around the corner, and this is where you can help all you subscribers, all 8 of you. Just share my videos, okay? Share them, and you could even do the thumbs up thing, and maybe that will rank me higher. Just help that 9th subscriber find me. That would really be nice. Then I would have 9 subscribers. But even when I have 9 subscribers, I promise not to forget you, my current 8 subscribers. You will always be dear to my heart. Today's subject, I'm going to put my 2 cents in on gun control because of the Las Vegas massacre that's been in the news lately. I'm going to talk about that. It just so happens that as I was getting ready to do this video, a nice item came in on gun control. Well, nice to me because I oppose gun control. I'm going to get more into that, well, right now. This just came in. I'll put the headline up there. DC decides not to appeal decision striking down restrictive gun carry law provision. And what this was we have to go back to something called the Heller decision. Maybe you've heard of it. Washington, D.C. has very restrictive firearms regulations, laws, especially for concealed carry. They make it almost impossible. So there was a suit from a man named Heller some time ago, and Heller won his suit that the city of Washington, D.C. had to be more sensible in issuing their concealed carry handgun licenses or permits. Now, what the old rule had been was you had to show a good reason for wanting to carry a concealed handgun. It was not enough to say I want it for self-defense, I want to exercise my Second Amendment rights. So this Mr. Heller, he sued on that, and he won. The D.C. Circuit Court struck down that law and said you have to start issuing concealed carry permits to law-abiding citizens, and you cannot make it so restrictive that it's almost impossible to get a concealed carry license. So what happened was the city, they continued on this course. They altered their law slightly, they thought, to conform with the circuit court decision, but they still had this good reason restriction. So what happened was somebody else appealed, and well, what happened is they didn't win the case because what happened was that Washington, D.C. dropped their appeal. They just gave up. And what's interesting, well, I'm going to read the quote here, the reason why they dropped their appeal, because they were very adamant on this. They tried several ways to get around this circuit court ruling, and for them to just suddenly just throw in the towel, well, there's got to be a good reason. So here it is. This is from the Attorney General, Karl Racine, stating why they gave up. Here it is. Public safety is and has always been my paramount concern. I continue to believe the district's good reason requirement is a common sense and constitutional gun regulation. However, we must reckon with the fact that an adverse decision by the Supreme Court could have wide-ranging negative effects, not just on district residents, but on the country as a whole. Now, what is he saying there? I'm going to, well, what he's saying, I'm going to read a second quote, but I'll set it up by just telling you what he's worried about is if this decision gets to the Supreme Court, then the Supreme Court will make a decision that will set a precedent that will affect not just Washington, D.C., but other cities as well, because Washington, D.C. is not the only city that has one of these stupid and unconstitutional, in my view, and in the circuit court's view, restriction, this good reason restriction, where a chief of police can just deny you a permit to carry a concealed weapon just on his arbitrary whim. So here's the second quote. The D.C. Attorney General's office said one reason they decided not to appeal the decision was concern that while a loss at the appeals court level only affects laws in Washington, a loss at the Supreme Court would affect the laws in the handful of other states that employ similar good reason clauses. And this is my favorite part coming up here. A loss in the Supreme Court could affect similar gun regulations in other jurisdictions, including in nearby states like Maryland, New Jersey, and New York. And that's the important part for me because, as people who have been watching these videos know, I live in New York. I'm a Manhattan resident. I have been dying for the whole 20 years I've been here for the whole 40 years I've been here to be able to get a concealed carry license. I'm from Michigan, and it's no big deal there, but here it's a big deal. So this is what I did, because there was a Second Circuit Court decision, that's the one that handles New York, that had the opposite ruling, but this was years ago and before this case that just came up. Now, what Alan Gottlieb of the Second Amendment Foundation is saying, he was a plaintiff in this Washington, D.C. case, is that now there's a discrepancy, a conflict between two circuit court decisions. And what that usually means is that the case goes to the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court resolves the contradiction one way or the other so that we have one uniform constitutional standard for the whole country. So what I did, good citizen that I am and New York resident that I am, wishing to have a concealed carry license, that I do, I immediately, just a few minutes ago, I emailed the Second Amendment Foundation, Alan Gottlieb's organization, and I said, if you want to bring a similar suit in New York to the Second Circuit, I would love to be the plaintiff. I would be happy to be the plaintiff in a suit, and then ideally what would happen is that the Second Circuit would issue a new ruling that would be opposite to the one that they've done in the past, because if they rule opposite to the D.C. Circuit, then you would have a conflict, a contemporaneous conflict. You would have this conflict from the Second Circuit Court coming right on the heels of this decision by the D.C. Circuit, and then it would just seem that it would have to go to the Supreme Court, and then they would have the same risk that the city of D.C., Washington, D.C. plaintiffs had, which is that it goes to the Supreme Court, and then you have a decision that would set the standard for the whole country. So I would hope that the Second Circuit would say, well, we see these precedents, and because of them, we recognize that we have no choice but to reverse our earlier ruling, and hallelujah, that would be a victory right there. But if they don't and they rule opposite, then it would seem to me that it would be very, very hard for the Supreme Court to ignore the conflict. It would seem that if Alan Gottlieb and the Second Amendment Foundation, they then appeal to the Supreme Court, that the Supreme Court would take the case, especially now that you've got, thank you, President Trump, I don't always agree with you, but thank you for Neil Gorsuch, who is now on the Supreme Court. The chances would be very good that they would grant certiorari, they would take the case, and Second Amendment supporters would win. So that's it. That's my Second Amendment. Well, it's not the whole comment. The comment that I was originally going to make before this case just came up was, number one, I am not as unhappy as a lot of conservatives are when liberals start calling for gun control every time there is a mass shooting like the one that we just had. And the reason is because there are more and more gun owners, and gun owners like myself. I do have a gun. I don't have concealed carry, and I actually don't have any modern guns because they make it so hard to own one here. Even if you just want to keep it in your apartment, they make it hard and they make it expensive. But I have a hobby from way back in Michigan, where I'm from, I like black powder shooting, old-fashioned guns. Did you see the last of the Mohicans, where you pour the powder down the barrel, you stuff the bullet in, and then you pull the hammer back, there's a flint there, and you put your little powder there, and then I just love shooting those kinds of guns. I have that one. I have a Civil War gun. That's a percussion cap gun. I have pistol, a few of them. So I know how guns work, and I'm not ignorant on the subject. And there are more and more gun owners every day, actually, that because they own guns, they realize that what these gun control nuts are saying, they're just totally ignorant about guns. And it creates more and more conservative voters. So in a way, I welcome it. It's a real pain in the you-know-where to have to listen to this stuff from liberals, but it helps us in the end because it hurts them in the polls. So it's a win-win situation as far as I'm concerned. But what I wanted to mention, I guess I'll just mention this in closing, because they call for gun control. Well, I guess they forgot about Paris. In one evening in Paris, 128 people died. 128 people were killed in mass shootings, one of them being the Bataclan, the theater where it was a heavy metal band was playing, and jihadists came in and they just shot up the whole place, and they killed 80 left dead. That's about 30% more or less, than died in Las Vegas. These jihadists, they all had automatic full auto weapons, machine guns. So that's what gun control does. Here, I have a list. I'll just put this up here. This was the other thing I was going to do. I'm going to be very brief because I talked so long about the new development with Washington, D.C. But remember the Charlie Hebdo massacre, the satirical magazine, and jihadists came in there and shot a bunch of people. Okay, 12 killed there, 11 injured. Then there was another one on January 9, 2015. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this, but 5 killed, 11 injured. Then the one that I guess went up from 128 to 130, November 2015, the Paris attacks I just told you about, 130 killed, 368 injured. And then there was the one last year in Nice, July 14, 2016, 86 killed and 434 injured. So there's your gun control for you. And there is me for today. I'm going to sign off. Again, welcome to my new subscribers. I hope you'll do what you can to get more subscribers. I'll try to do another video as soon as I can. I just have to find time to do it. As I've mentioned to people who have been watching these videos, I'm a working commercial real estate broker in New York City, where, as I mentioned, it is almost impossible to get a concealed carry license unless you're Donald Trump. Donald Trump has such a license, and other New Yorkers do. That's the exception. This is what really makes my blood boil. If you're a celebrity or if you're rich, yeah, then you can get a concealed carry permit. But if you're just an average person who has to walk through Central Park in the middle of the night, or if I live in Harlem, somebody was shot right across the street from me, right across the street from my apartment. Fortunately, the guy wasn't killed. The wounds weren't life-threatening, but you're sitting there eating dinner, and then, bang, 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 6 shots out, or maybe it was 4 shots. Who cares? The point is that it could have been me walking down the street, and I want to defend myself, and I am hoping that I get to be a plaintiff in this case. But if not me, that's somebody that just gets to the Supreme Court. And I'm rambling. I guess I just love all my viewers and my 8 subscribers so much. I hate to say goodbye, so I won't say goodbye. I'll just say fare thee well until next time. Bye. Fare thee well, I meant. Fare thee well.
You got plan, darling?
I always got plan. They don't ever work, but I always got one.